You're listening to the Grow Landscapers podcast, the podcast where we delve deeper into landscape business, interviewing legends of the UK landscaping industry. So, join host Nick Ruddle as he explores their thoughts, insights and experiences. That's here on the Grow Landscapers podcast.
Hi and welcome to the Grow Landscapers podcast. I'm Nick Ruddle and today I'm here with Mr. Pro Landscaper Magazine, Mr. Futurescape, Mr. Dream Garden Magazine, Mr. Jim Wilkinson. How are you today?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much for the invitation. I love the idea and the concept of this as well, and sharing knowledge and people learning from each other. A really good idea by you.
Yeah, I mean, you know so many people in the industry through all the different products and services that you offer. I've mentioned a few of them there. Just out of interest, what other sort of parts are there to your empire? Because having gone on your website, there's just so many different areas, so many different products and brands, sub-brands.
Yeah, I think there are. The core is the UK landscaping sector. So any media point of touch with them, anywhere we can help or add influence and share. So we've got a recruitment job board. We've got a magazine that specialises in the arboricultural industry. We've got one for garden centres, for the retail sector. But it's all mainly around the landscaping, the UK landscaping sector, awards, events, magazines, websites.
Yeah, and the awards alone, obviously, just had the recent ones. It's a huge, really well respected and a massive event now in the industry, isn't it? Your Landscaper Awards. And
so we do 4 awards, but I think the ones that have just gone past the business awards are special because most awards in the landscaping sector are all about like a single finished project. Whilst the business awards actually goes into why companies are successful, how they consistently be successful, how they look after their staff, corporate social responsibility, their views on the environment. So they're very unique in that they really do focus on how people should run businesses. And the winners of them over the 5 years we've been doing just amazing businesses, and businesses that, you know, we should all be looking up to and following, you know, from the very small ones who are doing things on a very, very individual basis to some of the big corporate companies that are really taking a lead in the environmental issue. So, yeah, really chuffed with the business awards.
Yeah, and hence why we're here today. I mean, you've got such a close relationship with the business side. It's not like you say. There's other organisations that focus on awards for the projects and the actual construction of those. This is specifically business, and I suppose, you know, I'm lucky enough to have been asked, you know, quite a few years on the trot now to be one of the judges for those landscape awards and the Pro Landscaper Awards, and the standards are every year. I find it so difficult, and I know the other judges do as well, to really pick a winner, because you screen them so well. And I think what we're left with are companies that are just absolutely brilliant. And I think, you know, it's good for me to listen and to read reams and reams of paperwork that just show you what is the gold standard that everyone needs to achieve and aim towards and aspire to, you know, within the industry. And I think that's what stimulated me to do this podcast, really, to take best practice, to get everyone whose award entries I've read, and some of the people we've got on this show are going to be talking about that in more detail as well, but to take all that information, years and years of knowledge, to help others. And I think, you know, what you do there and how you showcase those companies is amazing, and the standards are so high. It's a real achievement now to win one of those Pro Landscaper Awards. It's not given out willy-nilly, and it really is a massive achievement for those people.
And another really good thing for us on that as well is that we do have some of the industry's top people judging it, but we also have people outside the industry. So people that might be a HR specialist or a financial specialist, and for them to see into landscaping and see like some of these companies that are running it and how they're doing it is a really good thing for the UK landscaping sector as well. You know, there are some really, really good businesses in this sector. We need to shout about it and we need to promote that.
They're phenomenal. I mean, I'm a business coach. I've been a business coach for 15 years. I happen to specialise in landscaping, but we have had hundreds of clients in all different industries, and the level of professionalism and detail in a lot of these companies is every bit as good, if not better, than what I've seen in other industries. It really is pretty strong. Excellent. So for you then, Jim, how long have you been working within the industry, the landscaping industry?
So just very briefly, I've been in media for about the last 30 years, but then we launched LJ's 44 in 2011. So just coming up to sort of 12 years where we really specialised in landscaping. But my background and all my sort of training and everything is about media and getting people in contact with each other. But landscaping since 2011, since we launched Pro Landscaper.
Oh, right. So where did it all start then? What were the early years, 30 odd years ago?
Yeah, I was, I guess, fortunate. I worked for a company called Reed Elsevier, who are certainly the largest publishers in Europe, and I got onto one of their trainee schemes. And, I spent most of my early years working through their systems, and the way that they train, develop, and move people around to get knowledge was absolutely fantastic and something that stuck with me forever. And then I went to a medium-sized family-run business, which also gave me an insight into doing it. And then I went to another big publishing company called EMAP, who are a little bit like they are a big corporate company, but the way that they ran it was a bit like a pirate. So they were very quick to act. They moved very quickly. So I had some fantastic systems and training in my initial base. I understood how to run in a small business. And then I got the sort of the amalgamation of all of it coming together at EMAT, where it was a big company with big backings, but had that desire and want to move quick and had the speed to look at opportunities. So yeah, and the very good foundation, I think, was the main thing.
I think so. I think a lot of companies, small businesses, can take a lot of inspiration and knowledge from how big companies are structured. Because you think about it, you take all those principles, and they're the same in any business, whether you're a corporate or whether you're a small business, but they're just applied differently. So the big businesses, they need structure, they need systems, they need processes, they need recruitment, they need inductions, they need sales and marketing and all these things. So you learn from a really good sort of knowledge base, because they've been there before. You can't run a massive business and have no systems or no structure. So I think that kind of knowledge for you probably helped for you to apply that into your own business, I'd imagine.
Yeah, no, very much so. And funny, as you sort of go through that system, you do go through a period where that frustrates you. And I think as you sort of come out of that and then you look back at it, you think, well, I'm really pleased I understood and learned that. And without that, I don't think I could have done what I did. But that, you have to go through that frustration where, can't we do this? Can't we get this? And before you really appreciate it, I think. But it's really important. Those systems are really important, and the ideas and making sure what you do is done properly.
Yeah, and I think you could take that for granted, really, because I know my background initially. My first job out of university was in the corporate world with Orange in telecoms, and the fact that I had that experience for about 5 or 6 years is really, really important. Because when you do work with smaller companies, you know what that is that you need to sort of aspire to become a bit more like. But the difference being, for people who have started up a landscaping business, they might not have necessarily and probably haven't had experience of that kind of environment, so they don't know what that is. So we're lucky because you get an insight into that world, whereas most landscapers probably haven't had that. They're probably quite practical and more outdoory kind of people. I think you could take that for granted and think, actually, why would they know what that looks like? Because they've never experienced it, but we have. So I think having that experience does help, definitely, going forward. So what made you go into business then? You say you were at EMAP and you worked for this sort of small to medium-sized family-run business. What was it?
I guess it was a lifestyle change. My 2 children got to an age where they were moving out and looking after themselves and developing themselves. I think, I lived right down on the south coast, and I was travelling into London, 5:30 train, getting home 7:15 at night, and quite a few frustrations on there. And I guess I've always wanted to do it, and I felt once my children had done what they had to do and we support them to a certain level, there was much better opportunity to risk things and to take the chance. So it was an amalgamation of what my wife was extremely supportive once the kids were off to say, okay, let's do it now. I guess it was just a mixture of everything coming together and wanting to challenge myself to make sure that I could do it for myself rather than just do it for other people.
Yeah, definitely done the hard work, haven't you? I mean, 5 o'clock in the morning, getting home at 7 o'clock, young family, so that balance, you have a word with yourself, I think, don't you?
Yeah, and that's if British Rail works on time, and how often does that happen? It's like, and at the weekends, Lisa would be saying, "Should we go out anywhere?" And I'm shattered, and all I want to do is sit in front of the telly. And, it isn't alive. But again, I guess I had to go through that to develop what I needed.
Yeah, and now you've got the 2 kids in the business, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's a real family affair.
It is, yeah, which is a
Nice.
good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah. Now you're seeing too much of each other. Now you were thinking, I wish I was in London now, getting the train. No, never. So what did the business look like then when you started? What did you have an office? Is it in a shed, in a garage? What was the background? What did it look like?
So we literally had an idea and a strategy in terms of what we wanted to do over a period of time, and we were quite disciplined to start with. So straight away hired an office. Didn't want working from home. Didn't want working from shed. Wanted to get up every day and go into an office.
Right.
I think it felt it. We launched business on the 6th of February, and the magazine didn't come out until September because we wanted to make sure that in that time that we were doing everything correct, understanding the market and making sure we'd done all the process right. We were doing some odd things in as a support in the meantime, but there was 5 of us to start with, and it was literally we hired an office in Worthing, small office, and put the disciplines in place to make sure that we were doing things properly and correctly. Went out a lot into the market, went and met people, and then it sort of grew from there, really.
Brilliant. So what made you choose landscaping?
So where I was previously, I looked after the architectural market and the construction market, and they also had a couple of events that dabbled in the landscaping sector. But so looking at the research, it was very close in terms of the way it's structured. So an architect designs, and then the builder comes and builds. So it's pretty similar. We generally believe there was a fantastic opportunity to pull the whole of that community together in a media way that hadn't been done before. There were other very strong sort of magazines in certain areas, but nothing that really brought the whole of the industry and concept together. And our plan was always to get the magazine and then to launch an event and develop it that way. So it was an opportunity, and it was now or never. Do you know what I mean? I think we had to go for it, and we sold the house that we were living in. We invested all the money into getting the business up and running.
Wow.
And we had no choice but to make it successful.
Yeah, there's nothing like a bit of positive pressure, is there? Sell your house, put everything on the line, and you make sure it bloody works, don't you?
You do,
You've got no choice.
Every minute of every day.
It's quite a nice positive pressure to put on yourself, but still, it's when you've got a young family, it's still a pressure. So you say was it just you and your wife when you first started then?
So it was Lisa and I. Jamie, our son as well, was involved, and then Joe joined about the June time.
Right.
Jamie joined about the May. Yeah, so I think it was all very quick actually in terms of us coming together.
Right. Brilliant. So they're how old are they now? They're in their
31,
yeah,
30.
So they're early 20s then.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So a real family affair. All 4 of you, blimey. Like you say, some pros and cons to that, I suppose. They say never work with children and animals, isn't it? And business.
I also like with Jamie. He was working in London with me and getting the same train up there. So he once we got the sort of nugget of an idea, he was the one that was like driving. Come on, let's do it. Do it. So there's a lot of it down to him,
right?
To seeing and pushing us through to actually doing it. So.
Yeah. He's like, come on, Dad, I'm fed up with getting this 5 o'clock train lark is really nice. Come on, surely there's a better way to live your life. Brilliant. So what does the business look like now then? So originally it's 4 of you in an office.
Yeah. We've gone through periods where I think we went up to about 35 at most, and we're down to about 24 now. Right. But it's completely different. It's like I guess we've got a lot more flexible hours. We've got people working from home. We've got people working in different countries. We have all these different ways of doing it. Originally, again, quite rigid, everyone in the office at 9 o'clock doing it. Now we've got less people. We have more contractors that we work with. So a much more flexible base than we were. It's about 22 people, I think, in total.
So lots of experience then with lots of different members of staff, and now all over the place, from subcontractors and permanent members of staff, home-based members of staff, and everything in between. So what do you think the most important elements are to running a successful business then? Having been through a lot of change in the last...
I think fundamentally it has to be what you're offering, really, isn't it? I'm a firm believer everything we do has to add value. So if you're a reader, you need to gain from it. If you're spending money with us, you need to gain from it. If you're outside of the industry, you're looking into it, you need to gain from it. So everything we do, there has to be a value to the person that's using it. And I think you can get that right, and and it's at the heart of what you do. There are ways of cutting corners. There's our way of doing things cheaper. There's our ways of things about. If it affects the value that people are getting, you shouldn't do it. So I think the product has to be right. And we had this saying to start with: if you get the product right, the money will follow. And I still believe that if you get your product right, 100% right, and it's doing its job, you don't necessarily need to worry about the money. That will then come in and follow. So I guess focus on getting that product right.
I think that's such a brilliant lesson for so many people. If you fancy it, because unfortunately, I think some people focus on the money and chase the money, but money is just a byproduct of doing a really, really good job. You focus on delivering, focus on what is desired and what tangible value people can get. Then the money looks after itself, because people will spend more, they'll stay, they'll keep buying back, they keep returning, and it will just look after itself. But unfortunately, if you chase the money, it's not really, it doesn't tend to work very well that way. Very good, very good. So I think it's a great lesson. So what would you say one of the biggest, or some of the biggest mistakes that you might have made?
I think the single biggest mistake, Nick, is when we first launched, we had a 5-year plan, and it was quite, it was quite systemized, it was quite driven, and we knew where we should be at every single point of it, and we followed it, and in a way we were a bit of our own success. We got there quicker than maybe we thought we had. But then I think the mistake was we then didn't put the next 5-year plan together. So we then spent a couple of years where we were saying, oh, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. And we lacked a little bit of control. And so I think the biggest mistake, and what I would change I think it's about 2017, I'd have made sure that we strategized the next 5 years in the same way, with the same detail and the same determination as we did the first 5 years.
Yeah. I think it's a rolling plan, really, because if it's just a 5-year plan, it's a set period of time, isn't it? And they think, right now. But if it's always a 5-year rolling plan, or a year by year rolling plan, or 10-year rolling plan, it never really sort of ends. It just you keep assessing it, and you think, right, where are we going to be in 5 years' time? Where do you think we're going to be in 3 years' time? Where are we going to be in a year's time? Where are we going to be in 90 days' time? You're not just all waiting to get to that point. And it's like when they talk about the astronauts. An astronaut, by nature, their goal is to go to the moon or to go to space. When they've achieved that, what is their next? Nothing tends to really quite hit the mark after that, and that's why you get a lot of suicides, a lot of alcoholics who get to that. That's their life goal, and their purpose is gone. So I think it's a similar kind of thing with business and having your plans. You've got to keep evolving it and moving it forward, otherwise you lose that motivation, or you lose the mojo or the passion potentially.
I felt we lost structure. I felt we lost. Definitely in terms of the direction we were doing. So because we've done such a good job in the landscaping sector, we felt we could replicate it in different sectors, and we could do that quickly and in multiple sectors at the same time. And it was just be careful. Do what you do, focus what you do, know where you're going, and if you're not, if you haven't got that sort of drive and that strategy to where you should be going, whether it's a year, 2 years, or 3 years, you can get lost.
And that focus. You try and divide yourself, spread yourself a bit too thin. You do a little bit of everything, but not a lot of it really, really well. And
you get carried away, don't you? You get carried away on the bandwagon of how successful you are. And sometimes I just think you do just need to, it's very difficult. I'm definitely a doer, and I love the feeling and the emotion and things like that. But I think you also need that strategy. You need the structure. You need the systems. And I think, when you get both together, you get very great success. And I think that's what I've learned now. Everything we do, there is a plan and a continual plan.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's also good. Equally, it's good to look back. When instead of looking forward all the time, what have you learned? What looking back, like where have we come? What lessons have we learned? What can we do better? How can we improve things? I think it's really important.
I think that comes in as you get older as well, because I talk to lots of landscapers, and some of them are very successful, and they very much have that reviewing thing. Whilst a lot of the younger ones at the moment, it's all about the future, and it's like, I think as you get older, you do learn to look back as well.
Yeah, you you do. I think that definitely comes with experience and age and wisdom, doesn't it? And making the mistakes, going through the pain of failing your way to success, and only then do you sort of start questioning how you do things. But everyone, I think, to some degree has to go through their own kind of learning curve. I mean, if you can listen to things like this and learn from others and model yourself on success, then that's a great start. But you do have to sort of, there's an element of risk taking on your own behalf. And unfortunately, you have to learn the hard way. You just don't want to make some of those lessons maybe not quite so painful and expensive and time consuming. But I think a lot of people can learn from that who are listening to this. Just think about some of the things that maybe you get tempted to do. So you talk about thinking, okay, well, let's get into this, let's get into that. So landscapers might be thinking, oh, look, we're really good at landscape. Well, let's get into outdoor kitchens, let's do garden rooms, let's do swimming pools, and sometimes before you know it, you're trying to be too many things to too many people, bit of a one-stop shop. And that's okay if that's what you really want to do. But sometimes I think unless you stay focused on your plan, I think, no, that's where we're going. We can avoid the side shows and focus on the main event. Otherwise, you sort of think, oh, another shiny object that way, another shiny object that way. And sometimes it can just take your mind off off what you're really trying to achieve, what that end goal is for your business. So no, I think that relates to all companies, really. Can you think of one major setback or one major challenge that you have had in business? And what did you do about it? And what was the outcome? Can you think of something like that?
Yeah, I can, unfortunately. So I guess, like everyone, COVID affected people in different ways and different things. We were running Futurescape at a good level, but not at the level we felt it should be. So we made a conscious decision that we were going to take it up to the next level, and we were going to move it to Excel in London, a much bigger venue. Our personal costs for a business were going to multiply massively. So, like, to hire Excel compared to hire Sandown, all things like everything, like costings of electrics, carpet, every single thing you could think of multiplied massively. So we spent most of 2019 going out to the market, getting the markets fully supportive of what we were trying to do, explaining why we were going to do it, put a lot of our heart and our soul and our effort into it. And of course, COVID meant we couldn't do it. And unfortunately, the commitment that we had to our suppliers and services and things like that were already in place, and they weren't very flexible, and the events market as a whole was really suffering because they just couldn't do anything. The venues were suffering, the supply chain were really suffering. So we had a lot of time and effort went into saying this is the next big thing. All of a sudden, that being taken away from us. Postponed rather than taken away from us. But that was a massive thing in terms of the time, the effort, the salaries, absolutely. So that was a massive shock. And I guess what we done is we had to part where we were. We launched the virtual version of it just to keep the branding, the positioning, and the concept of what we were trying to do online in the November, and came out of it in quite a strong position in terms of, thankfully, most of the exhibitors stuck by us and supported us and said, okay, we'll move it onto our 2021 booking. And 2021 was fantastic. But it was like, that initial shock when we knew we couldn't do it. And again, like everybody else, we didn't know we couldn't do it straight away. It said, okay, in March, everything's going to be back to normal by April. Then it's going to be, okay, we're going to open venues in August. Then it's going to be September. And it wasn't really until the end of September that they were saying, actually, no, we're not going to do anything until next year. So that was tough. That was really tough. It was a massive learning curve, keeping everyone motivated, making sure that the business was stable. Again, another good thing is that our magazine was really, really strong and helped support the company right the way through it. So there were other ways that we could keep it going. But that was a tough time. Everything we put everything onto this big event that we really wanted for the landscaping industry as a whole, not just for us, but there was this massive opportunity for us as an industry that got put on hold and hit us with a baseball bat, really.
Yeah, well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, they say.
Definitely.
You become bulletproof, don't you, in business? Because you think, wow, but I think when you've gone through tough times, at the time you can't see the benefit or the positive in it, because all you're looking at is that terrible obstacle in front of you. But they're good experiences, because when you get into a situation like you did with them, that you just explained there for COVID, you think back, well, if I can get through, I got through that, I can get through this, I can get through anything. And it gives you that belief, that strength, that resilience, that strength of character to rally everyone around, to be that leader that can go, right, come on, team, we can do this. And I think the fact that you've come out the other side, what a great achievement that was. And you do become stronger in many ways off the back of that. So if that hadn't happened, you wouldn't learn about yourself, or other opportunities might not have come up. You're not thinking about different ways of working or other ways of doing things. And the fact that you have, I think it does benefit you when you do come out the other side. If you do come out the other side, and some businesses we're not lucky enough to come out the other side. So the fact you've done that, I think you're better off for it. Although at the time it's very painful. So with that in mind, then what parts of being in business do you think you found the most rewarding for you?
So I think that there's two parts. One is seeing some of the staff develop. And when I mean develop, not just internally, some people have gone on, left us because they wanted bigger ambitions and have done extremely well. Some people have gone on and come back, and some people have really progressed in here. So I think, especially where, again, where you have younger people who might not have the experience suddenly really grow, and you can watch them take hold of things, and you watch them sort of grow in their confidence as people as well as confidence in the product. So I think that's a really, really nice part. That's the part where you look back. Business awards this year, we had Nina up on stage introducing the guest speaker. She was fantastic. Now, if I'd have asked her to do that 2 or 3 years ago, she wouldn't have been there, but she's grown and she's got the confidence, and she came across really, really good. So that is lovely. And then the other thing I really, really love is that the way that our magazine and our events, well, actually all the things that we do, have really helped and integrated the sector. So building relationships between different companies, different people, the way that we share the promotion and things like that, and how, I guess sometimes when you look at things, people are on the outskirts, but I really believe that what we do is right in the heart of the landscaping sector now. I think it's part of it, and it's become part of it, and I think that's a real sort of tick to Lisa, Jamie, Joe, and all the staff here, that they've been able to make sure those our products really sit within the sector. And that's great. When people say, I saw that in Pro Landscape, or I met that person at Futurescape, or that was a topic that was covered on this, I love all that. I absolutely love knowing that we were at the centre of things that are going on.
It's like you're the glue that holds everything together, isn't it? It's like you're the connector of people and industries and companies, and it's just become such a standard part of the industry now. Your awards, the Pro Landscaper magazine, I think every client we have, and I think about 70% of our clients are in the industry, all subscribe to the magazine. They go to the awards, they go to Futurescape. Everyone's aware of it. And if you're not there, it's like, well, why wouldn't you be? Because there's so much benefit of being part of it.
And we do it with the benefit of the industry. Do you know what I mean? There's obviously the financial side of it and us having a living, but I can honestly generally say I've worked in loads of different sectors. We have got the benefit of the industry at our hearts. We wanted to, we launched a 30 under 30s to highlight, because we had an event at Futurescape one time. Some of the audience, look around the room, every bloke was 50 with grey hair like me. So where's all the young people? Where's the people coming through it? So we launched 30 under 30s to it. David Dodd and Nigel Bocott picked up Go Landscape based around what was happening with the training and things like that. So that was all sparked and spurred off at Futurescape, a debate at Futurescape. And it's like, that helps the industry and that benefits the sector.
Absolutely.
Get the product right, and the money will follow. And it's like, we focus on making sure that that's what we do.
Yeah, well, I think everyone knows that about you and about Pro Landscaper. They know, that 100% you've got the industry at your, at the heart of everything you do to benefit everyone within it. Brilliant, very good, very good. So, what advice would you give someone then? You've been in business for a while. You've had ups and downs. So, someone that's maybe a bit stuck, wants to expand, but don't quite know what those next steps are to take. What would you say to those people?
So, a lot of it, I think, follow your gut instinct. I think that's quite important. I love surrounding myself with people who run businesses and talk to people and question people. And, I get as much benefit from when I interview you as I hope you do from all the audiences from listening. So talk to people, understand people. I would definitely sort out the systems and have my plan in place and my checkpoints and those long it's awful if it's not you naturally, But once you get them doing and get them in place, it makes a hell of a difference to your business. So I think surround yourself with good people. I would put a plan together, talk to people about it, talk to people like you admire, talk to people that respect, be prepared to be questioned on it. And, don't just think it's always going to be right what you put on there. And go for it. I guess it's easier to go for something and fail than it is to sit and say, I wish I'd done that all my life.
Yeah, some wise words there. I think absolutely you can learn from great people, and this is why we're doing this here today. This is the whole point. I launched this podcast so that other people can learn from people that have already been there, done it. Bought a t-shirt and also made the mistakes and fall down the pitfalls that hopefully you can avoid. And systems. You say about systems. I mean, systems are not always necessarily the sexiest things in business, but they're, I think, the most important, or right up there with being the most important, because systems give you consistency. It gives you that consistency of doing things in the right way for everybody. Because if you don't have systems and it's in everyone's head, then everyone's doing things in different ways, and it could be a nightmare, which causes you stress, which loses you money, and that can be quite wearing and painful after a while. So
I see that all the time, especially on the creative part of our industry. They're unbelievably good at what they do. Yeah. But then you sort of say to them, what's this, what's that? And I guess it also goes back to knowing what you are good at and what you're not good at, and then backfilling what you aren't very good at. If you are the front person, or you are the creative, or you're the designer, then you just got to make sure you've got the systems in place. And I could, I'm not going to, but I can name a few companies where the leading person is definitely the front, but behind them, they have some really, really solid structures and people in place to fulfill them.
Yeah, well, there's a very successful businessman that I'm sure some people may have heard of, Richard Branson. And he's famous of saying, always recruit people and hire people that are better than you, because if you get involved, you actually make things worse. So always look to hire people that are great, better than what you are naturally, and just you do as a business owner what you're naturally good at. People try and save a wage, but actually it's costing themselves a fortune. So some great lessons there. So okay, well, finally then, if we had one final golden nugget from you, Jim, to anyone who's trying to build a business, and from all your years of wisdom and knowledge and pain, blood, sweat and tears, what would that one thing be? If there was one thing you could just sort of tune it down to, what would it be?
So I guess it's just make sure you deliver. You have to, whatever you say, if you're going to do the best magazine, make it the best magazine. If you're going to do an event that's going to have this many people there, deliver that many people. Just if you're going to make the topics like this, deliver. So your product right and deliver. I mean, that's the most important. Landscape garden. If you're going to design a garden and build a garden for this, and it's going to be that quality, deliver.
That's brilliant. That's so good, and it's not an answer I've had before, but it's just so important, because ultimately, that's why you're in business, isn't it? Yeah. That's why people are going to speak about you positively, or come back and use you again, and refer you to their friends and family. So, Jim, it's been brilliant. It's been really, really good fun talking to you today. How could people get in touch with you? What would be the best way? If anyone wants to get involved with any part of your business, what do they need to do?
Yeah, just drop me an email. I think it's the best way. I'm over social media or LinkedIn, but jim.wilkinson@ljs44.com. Always happy to talk and help. And please feel free to do so.
Brilliant. Well, Jim, you're a top man. I really appreciate your time and wisdom and help. I hope people got a lot of benefit from listening to you and what you've been talking about today. So thank you very much. Pleasure, and speak to you soon. See you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick. Well, good for doing this. Really good. Yeah. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Grow Landscapers podcast. To get in touch and see how we can help you with your business, by emailing nick@nickruddle.com.